welcome to the Unmuted podcast. It is a brand new podcast that we've relaunched, and it's all and to talk about all things HR, talent, and HR tech. I'm Jeff Waldman, the founder of ScaleHR, and also the podcast host. And we brought this back after some time, and this will be we published now 4 episodes, and we have them coming out every Thursday morning on a weekly basis, and we bring on guests from all different walks of life, from HR, talent, and HR tech. This year, it's a heavy focus on Canadian guests because, darn it, we're awesome. So there we go. So I'm going to introduce the topic, but just before I do, so this podcast lives on YouTube and also our website. So if you haven't already done so, please subscribe to our channel so you can get all of the updates from us as new videos and podcast episodes are published. So this is a really good one. This topic is, and I'm going to read it out here, is AI-powered recruitment, leveraging ChatGPT, yes, ChatGPT, for talent acquisition. So before I bring on our guest, Shweta Jacob, I think it's really important just to make just a couple of points on what's going on in this world. And then, we're doing some research, and I found that Mercer did some research and found that 41% of companies are actually using AI chatbots right now as part of the hiring process, which is really interesting. That's a lot. And, but using these tools for, answering queries from candidates, completing questionnaires, screening, and then also assessing candidates. So there are quite a few use cases right now. I think it's safe to say that it's still in its infancy, even though the number of companies is actually quite high. And also another really interesting stat is 68% of recruiters believe that using AI in their hiring process will remove unintentional bias. So that's actually really interesting. And so, it's something just to think about, because obviously bias is something that, all of us have. It's just a natural part of our being. And it's important for us to recognize those biases when they creep up, and then to shift sort of how we sort of take our next step. Now, this last stat, just to frame the conversation, is ChatGPT has over 1 billion users, and I'm sure it's probably climbing, drastically every day. And we're seeing a major shift in the recruiting landscape. And, I would say that's really true in the last couple of years. AI is leveling the playing field for job seekers, making it really much easier to get accepted by applicant tracking systems, ATS, and criteria matching. So many of us have been in the job seeking position in the past and know how difficult it is to beat that big bad applicant tracking system in trying to get accepted. And with most the recruiters spending on average 7 seconds on each application, you can see how this could be a huge problem. So AI is actually helping job seekers, which is a like a great thing. So there's a lot to unpack here, and so I'm really excited to have Shweta Jacob join us. I've known her forever, and so I will say that I'm old. She's not, but I've known her, for a long period of time, and she's going to help us break down the ins and outs of ChatGPT to help in your recruiting game. So, Shweta, I just want to welcome you to the Unmuted podcast.
Thank you, and gosh darn it, you're amazing. That's why we love chatting with our fellow Canadians.
Yeah, no, well, you know what? There's a lot of really cool things happening, down south. Obviously, the U.S. is 10 times bigger than Canada. Canada just passed 40 million people. Woohoo! But we're still very small. And so we want to make sure that we are shedding a massive light on Canadian top talent. And so you're obviously one of those people. And so just want to, before we dive into our topic, maybe just explain to us or tell our audience, what you do and then what your company is all about.
Yeah, thank you. So my company is called SJ Growth Advisors. And where this it's come from is I spent 18 years now in recruiting and talent acquisition, which I love. The last 10 years specifically, I've been working in the tech and startup space. And the last 4 years have been exclusively with San Francisco-based startups.
Oh,
And I realized that there's a huge opportunity to take all of the learnings from all of these different organizations and really parachute in and help smaller startups figure out what's wrong. Every CEO I talk to says, why is it so hard to hire? And there's a number of different reasons. And so to come in, parachute in, diagnose what the problem is, provide solutions and remedies, implement them, and then parachute out, but be available as an advisor as necessary is what I've been doing, and it's been really fun to see so many different companies and how they're growing and how they're going to be changing the landscape going
so
forward.
your current company, do you primarily work with companies in the Bay area, or do you focus on just other areas too?
No, mine it's across the U.S. and Canada. It's just
In Canada.
happens to be that I've worked in the U.S. for the last 4 years, and
Yeah.
so I've got some nice connections there.
Cool. Yeah, fantastic. So obviously, chat, GPT started in, the US, obviously. So let's shift gears there. So what is the buzz about it? I mean, obviously, I'm a user of chat GPT. I actually like it quite a bit. There are some drawbacks to it, but I'm not
Hmm.
going to mention them. But what's the buzz about it? And why exactly is chat GPT, what is it? And then
Sure.
why should the recruiters, if they haven't already, care about it?
I mean, there's often this thing where it's like, oh, it's the shiny new tool, and we all get very excited, and we think it's going to change the game. In my opinion, this one actually really does change the game. And the reason it changes the game is it takes some of the content and administrative burden off of the recruiting team so that we can continue to do what most recruiters love, which is having conversations and getting to know both companies, individuals, hiring managers, etc. So that's why I think there is a lot of buzz about it. And it's really fast. I
Yeah.
mean, you you can put in a prompt, any kind of prompt that you want, and I think within 8 seconds you can get some pretty good content that comes out of it. I mean, of course we want to edit it, but 8 seconds is it's great. I mean, it's why wouldn't you use something like that to your advantage if it's available to you? And I think that's why people are talking about it.
And you presented on this topic at the recent
I
Just
did.
Stop HR Toronto, and you mentioned something that actually caught my attention. Obviously, is that if you put it in a prompt in the tool, and say you get something out of it, and you want more information or you want to dive deeper, you can actually further that prompt and say, tell me more about A or tell me more about X, and it'll actually keep going for you. So.
Yeah, the conversation, it's almost like a conversation. You can say, I'd like this to be in a more conversational tone. And actually, this part, it's too long. Let's condense this. Or you can say, go through it again and remove any gender biases that may be implicit,
Yeah.
and it will go through and do that as well. So that part's, I think very fascinating. And then there's also the part of just helping us as recruiters. Again, you said we all can have biases. So throwing our a job description or interview questions into ChatGPT and asking it to highlight where there might be some biased language is also really advantageous to have that second set of eyes for you.
So that leads me to another question, actually, because because they talk obviously when you do that, you're putting a lot of trust in the platform that A, it's
Yeah.
actually fully, unbiased, and I don't know if a lot of people have full confidence, in that. So how would you coach people to say, oh, based on that, potential problem?
It's a great question, but this is why I believe this is a tool to help us, but it's not going to replace us. I think
Right.
that's another reason why there's been so much buzz. Is like people are like, oh no, the chatbots are coming and they're gonna take our jobs and they're not going to need us anymore. And that's not the case. there is still that human element that we need to review and be part of the editing process, the content process, even the way that we ask the prompts that we as humans put in will lead to very different results that come through. So that's what I would say to anyone who's concerned about the bias is to do what you would is to review it and use your own expertise to make sure that it's not there. That's what we're here for.
So yeah, I mean, what you're saying is obviously is that the tool is not meant to totally replace the person, right? So that so that's really critical, and I totally agree with you that it's just another tool that helps you drastically expedite the work that you're trying to do. And I don't know about you, but I can't push out or do something in 8 seconds. I mean, if you do, then you're on cloud nine, walking on cloud nine. But so I just want to dive deeper into the applications of ChatGPT in hiring. Like, can you talk about maybe one or two specific examples of how, and you already mentioned some of this, but get a little deeper into how ChatGPT can be integrated into our recruitment process. Maybe there's a case study or something that you've done to say, we're going to shift this process, this part of the process just a little bit by leveraging ChatGPT.
Yeah, so there's a couple of ways. Let's start at the beginning of a recruitment process where a hiring manager says, I need to hire a VP of marketing. And you say, great. So let's talk about, can you get me a job description? How many hiring managers want to write draft job descriptions? They don't. They don't want to do it, but they're the experts really in their area. They know what they're looking for. So it does have to be a partnership, but you can use again the tool ChatGPT to help you and the hiring manager at least create the framework for the job description. And then you can do the nuances that you need to for your organization. So you can go into ChatGPT and say, I am CEO of a 250 person startup based in blah, blah, blah. This is what we do. I need a job description so I can hire my first VP of marketing who will oversee these 3 teams. Go.
Yeah.
And next thing you know, you'll have a really robust job description that then you can use as a starting point and edit and or add other elements. It will save the hiring manager and the recruiter hours and hours of work and writing and editing and rewriting.
Yeah. No, I mean, that's an excellent thing. I mean, like just personally, I've been in HR for over 20 years, and I remember, see the eyes roll from hiring managers like, well, I need to know what you want. John want to shrink or John mind reader, right? So, and we're like, oh. And I'm like, no, just give me bullet points. You start somewhere, but then that's a bit of an exercise, and it takes a couple of days, and then weeks go by, and you're just time ticking.
By the time it's done, they're like, we haven't hired this. Like now the fires are burning. We haven't hired this person. Oh my God, the team is completely stretched. Everybody is stressed. So, okay, fine. Here, I did the job description for you, recruiter. Now go. Oh, and my team is so stretched, and now they're going to have to do interviews. Add interviewing into their schedule when their schedule's already stretched, doing the marketing efforts, etc. Oh, and now let's figure out what those interview questions are going to be, right? And so then and so that's the next stage. So it's like, okay, well, what are the interview questions for not only the recruiter when we're screening, but for the interviewers, and what's the key selling point for this role, and how am I going to reach out to candidates and entice them about this? What's that copy going to look like? All of these elements can be assisted with ChatGPT. I think that's really, like, if I was to say, like, I know you're going to ask me this later, so maybe I should save it. Or should I say it now? I'll say it now. No, I'll save it for later. It's a teaser. I'll save it for later.
Well, okay, so I was going to ask you, give me another example of how you can leverage the
Mhm.
tool, which you already did. So I guess where I'm going naturally is I'm going to ask you about outcomes. Obviously,
Mm,
all of these tools, these new software platforms, that are coming out, are all shiny and glitzy, and it's great. And we keep saying that it's going to help you improve the quality of hire, productivity as hiring managers and recruiters, and on and on. But you know, have you been able to identify clearly for a client or customer,
mhm.
what are the actual results in hard figures in
Yeah.
terms of its impact in using some tool like this?
So, in full transparency, I haven't yet. However,
Okay.
if I was going to, I would think about it in, let's say, in your outreach. So, when you're sourcing and looking at, okay, what is my response rate when I'm doing my outreach for roles right now? And then what's my response rate when I'm using AI to do customized outreach? And it's beyond ChatGPT. There are other tools within some ATSs now, within LinkedIn, where they're using AI to
Yeah.
help you customize and personalize your LinkedIn messages and your LinkedIn outreach. I mean, I was quite taken aback when I saw this because I always thought that's my secret sauce. That's how I've been successful. Is I didn't send out as many messages, but they were always really tailored to that
Yeah.
person. And now with ChatGPT and the integrations with these other tools, this has become really accessible to everyone, and it's going to save people time as well. That's where I think the interesting piece is going to come in, is that time and response rate and looking at the correlation when using AI versus not.
And then obviously longer term, you can also assess quality of hire based on attention and so on, which is sort of a longer term, it's a business analytic play, but
Yeah,
I think it's really really important. So
I think so,
and
some of
that's
that.
always difficult to measure, but
Mhm.
obviously if your hiring process has been improved
Yeah,
and you are able to improve quality, of course it's hard because the recruiters focus on the front part of the sort of employee experience, and then once someone starts to work for you, they then transition to the next phase, and
yeah.
it's up to their manager to really play a lead role. The recruiter is no longer really part of it, but if you're able to get really much tighter on the expectations of the organization from the hiring manager point of view, then the theory is that the long-term impact will be much more positive. So,
I'll take that one step further, actually, Jeff.
sure.
And I think it comes through the evaluation process. And I
Yeah.
think by really tailoring your interview and evaluation process to the outcomes of the role and being very, very specific and outcome based when interviewing candidates, you'll have a much higher quality of hire than if you're interviewing and speed to hire than if you're interviewing and saying, well, I'm not sure. I don't know if they've done the, I don't, it, there should be no, I'm not sure. That's the whole point of the interview, is so that we are sure of what a candidate has done. And so again, ChatGPT, you can throw in your job description and say, um, I'm going to be the direct report to this VP of marketing. What are some questions that I should be asking to understand their leadership abilities, right? And then that can help, especially newer interviewers, junior interviewers, kind of know where to go in order to evaluate certain competencies.
And Chat GPT, can also assist or other AI tools afterward with the actual assessment part. So once you generated answers to questions, then you can actually pump that into it, and you can ask the tool to say, well, I don't know. I mean, tell me, can say, tell me if this is a good answer for this question, and it can actually help you with that
Yeah. Well,
because
you
there's
can,
a lot of bias.
or you can say, what would be a good answer? What would be a good answer for this question, knowing that our culture or values are X, Y, Z,
Yeah.
right? And so for those who are also job searching right now, fun note, use ChatGPT to try to determine what questions you're going to be asked in an interview process.
Yeah, we're not advocating to game the system, but we
No.
are telling you that you can game the system.
Well, it's
Anyway,
not, well, I don't think
we're
it's
not
gaming
saying
the
that.
system. I think it's knowledge is power. And sometimes we do share interview questions ahead
Right.
of time with candidates. And so it's about preparation and making sure that
Yeah.
you're highlighting your experiences. Because look, you can try to game it and then you're going to sit in the seat and you'll know real quick
Yeah,
if you're doing the job or not.
then I was just joking. Anyway, but
Sorry,
but the
it's just
key
a
thing.
pet peeve of mine about this gaming. People think that they can
I
do
know,
these
I know, I
things, and
know.
it's like, no, just be yourself.
But also too, I mean, human beings are biased beings,
Yeah.
we've been talking about that for years. How to make sure that our process is fair, how to make sure that our system is, equitable, and all of these things. But at the crux of it, people are still going to kind of veer towards someone that they like, and that's a
Mm,
sort of almost like a psychological emotional response,
hmm.
and that is inherently extremely biased.
Yeah.
So if you're able to leverage a tool that is, supposedly helping you to, deal with those, potential biases, then that is definitely a positive step in the right direction. So,
Yeah.
I just wanted to ask
Because
you
it
a
can look,
question. Sorry, go
sorry,
ahead.
I was going to say, it can look at the feed, you can put the feedback in. This is the feedback I'm receiving from my interviewers. Pull out the bias that you're seeing within our
Yeah,
organization, and it can really
that's a
help
good
with
point.
that.
Um, obviously, not everyone has jumped on board yet. Obviously,
Sure.
adoption of anything is, it is almost like a bell curve. Obviously you have your sort of early adopters, and then you have the middle of the pack, which is most of us, and then you have your, laggards, and that's the case with anything to deal with a change. And so
Hmm.
this is the same thing. So, what are some common misconceptions or concerns that businesses, recruiters might have, hiring managers might have when they are looking at AI in terms of bringing AI into their hiring
Yeah.
efforts? And then how can those be dealt with?
So, I mean, first recruiters are like, oh no, this is going to take my job.
Yeah,
So there's the first concern. Second concern with that companies have, and this is a very fair concern, is in regards to privacy and or proprietary information,
yeah,
right? It's a language learning model. The more you put into it, the more that it learns. And so, do you really want to put in your company information into this giant tool? So
yeah,
that's one thing. There are ways to get around that. You can do there are subscription models that you can get so that it won't save your data. There are other things that some Canadian company has just recently done, very cool, which they've kind of created their own internal using this tool ChatGPT, but then all the information stays within their organization, which I thought was really cool.
but
Um,
let's talk about that. Sorry, just to cut you off. Do you want to talk about that now or after? Because I'd be really interested in hearing more
so,
on that.
full transparency, I only just found out about it yesterday, and I
Oh, really?
haven't dug a lot deeper into it. Can I say what the company name is?
It's totally up to you.
Okay, well, Loblaw Digital, kudos to Loblaw Digital.
Oh,
Yesterday, they announced that they had launched, or they're calling the product Garfield, and they had a team that worked together to create this so that they could move at a faster pace, but also retain their confidential secret sauce.
uh, that's
It's
very, very smart.
brand hot
So
off the
kudos to
presses.
you. No, that's good. And I know some people there, so I'm going to reach out to them. Maybe talk to them about this. But let's just go back to the misconceptions, concerns. So you talked a bit about that.
Yeah, and then I think the other big misconception is, well, if we're all using it, are we all going to be then having the same types of questions, the same types
Right.
of job descriptions, the same types of this, right? And and that's where again I emphasize that it's a tool, but it's not a replacement. And so,
But also, too, just to that too, though. I mean, if you're putting in, information that is really unique to your company,
yeah,
then the theory is that the output is not going to be the exact same as everybody else,
yeah.
right? So,
And I think from
yeah,
the adoption perspective, there's people who have tried it and we're like, well, this was useless. I'm out, right?
yeah.
It takes time. It's learning. It's a muscle that we haven't exercised before, and so it does take time to figure out how to do it and get the information that you want, which is relevant to you. And again, it's always learning. It's learning, so it continues to change and learn day in and day out, which is really, really fascinating.
So I do have a question about, things, the integration piece, because
Yeah.
obviously, having a deep background in HR tech, and you're obviously looking at tools and helping companies navigate that world. One of the key sort of tick boxes for me is, the integration capabilities. So if I'm using a ATS and I use that
Hmm.
as my core sort of hub for all of my hiring efforts, can Chat GPT be fully integrated into that, or is it a separate standalone tool and you kind of have to go back and forth? So how does it work?
So it's going to depend on. It depends. Unfortunately, it depends on your APIs and what's open and what's not, and if you can integrate it or not. How your systems are configured. However, let's just say that you can integrate it. So, what are some ways that you can really use it to um, help you further? And there's like on air, airplane websites, right? For
Mhm.
Air Canada, for instance, there's a chatbot, and you can say, it's like, what I want to find how many pounds can I take for this flight? Well, what if a candidate can go in and say, I want to know where my application is in the process. That could be pretty cool, right? For them to be able to see that. Then there's other opportunities where if you could integrate it and say, I would love this, and say, hey, I've received 500 applications for this one role. Hey, AI, can you pull out those that have worked at hospitals, that have
Right.
hospitals in it, and pull those out and identify those for me because I want to go through those ones first. That would be an exceptionally valuable tool and a huge time saver. Because I don't know about you, but I do go through every application that comes through. I don't
Uh,
spend a
well,
lot.
back in the day, I remember when I first started working, it was like the old, like the big stack of resumes that get into a folder and they slam them down on my desk like this. But but it's really
Faxes,
interesting
remember
because I mean,
faxes?
yeah, but we've been focusing on one tool, but I think the message here is that, AI in general is definitely making its way into mainstream sort of hiring platforms and tools, right?
Hmm.
So it doesn't have to be a chat GPT platform. It can
Right.
be, other AI chatbot, a generative AI tool, whether it be Findem or Team Taylor or any of those guys.
Yeah.
And so a lot of them are actually building, their own capabilities internally,
And
which is really,
and
really
on
cool.
top of that, I've created some microsites for both internally as well as for some of our executive searches. And I've been able to use some AI tools to help me build these out and make them look really professional in terms of
Yeah, yeah,
imagery and content. And again, it's all about saving time for me.
yeah.
That's really
Um,
key.
So this whole sort of explosion of AI infused software tools and technologies is growing fast, right? But
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you, in your perspective, what is the future? I mean, like, what does the future look like in terms of the AI, capabilities as it relates to hiring?
Yeah,
Do
yeah,
you
great.
see something coming down, the horizon?
I mean, again, so if I had if I could have a crystal ball, and then it would be some of those things that I've already mentioned, i.e. the chatbots, but also like just telling the system, I need to find these people, or hey, I mean, we already have this, but like I need to, I want to send a text, we've got text integrations now. We've got voicemail, email integrations. Like I want to send an email to these 10 people, but very personalized to each one. Create 10 different emails based on these 10 people from the hospital that you pulled out for me. It really is, I think, using it as thinking of it as again, I've said this before, but your assistant.
I was
What
just
can
thinking
you,
that it's
yeah,
like
what can
your
you,
sort of workflow partner, basically. You've got an entire
yeah,
process, and AI is sort of embedded into every step of the way, and it's just right there with you. But
yeah,
you're in the driver's seat. You're the one that tells it what
yeah.
to do.
And so, perfect example was yesterday I was working with a researcher for a role that I'm working on, and she's done a wonderful job, and she's found 300 people. And I said, "This is great, um, but I'm not going to reach out to all 300." So
Well,
I said, so let's think about. So I said, let's think about this. Can you pull out the 25 that have X industry experience? She was like, yes, I can do that. I said, great. So, but that's going to take her some time to get those 25 that have what I'm looking for, that keyword. And then the next step from there is, okay, I'm going to draft a specific outreach for these 25 individuals, referencing their XY industry experience, etc., so that it is much more personalized. But that request, we did that. Yes, it was in 24 hours since I asked for that to move these 25 over. Um, Probably it's done now, but I haven't yet drafted the personalized email that needs to go out. And then I need to go in and I need to send it and tweak things here and there. And then I'm going to need her to go back and find the next 25 of the different industry. So maybe I'll get those tomorrow. But you can see how that timing is staggered, and it's slower than if we had an AI tool who could do it for us within seconds.
right, right. I think that's really what it's about. It's about the speed of work, the quality or the productivity, because you're actually having a tool to help you. And three, it's sort of on brand too, which is really a key thing, because that's the worst thing in the world is to portray an employer brand, and then you get to actually talking to somebody and it's the complete opposite, which is obviously like a massive blow. So
Yeah.
um so that's really interesting. So what if you were to advise a group of recruiters that have never tried AI yet,
Hmm.
are skeptical, but they're open to starting? So how would you
Hmm.
suggest that they even start? What would be your
Yeah. So I would
recommendation?
say for recruiters, I would say to start with messaging. Just say start, and that I think is that's frankly going to be the easiest because it's already starting to get integrated within our ATSs and within the LinkedIn.
Right.
So we're already kind of seeing that there. But that's where I would start is I want to send out a conversational message to a candidate who has XYZ experience to entice them to join ABC company in this type of a role. That would be the first way I would try it. I'd also try it to get buy-in internally. From
Yeah.
again those hiring managers and say, that there's a role coming down the pipe. Ask ChatGPT to write you a job description and pass it over to the hiring manager and say, "Hey, I know you're going to be hiring for this. I thought I'd help you." And
And they'd
encourage.
be like, holy moly, this is
That
awesome.
right, superhero, you're being proactive. I thought I'd help you, and I proactively have created this for you. And you just need to go in and edit and add in some KPIs, and we're probably going to be good to go. Um, so I would definitely recommend that. I would even ask it to look at your existing things and job descriptions, and ask it to pull out bias because
Yeah.
look, it happens. There
Of
are
course.
terms that we use regularly that have a subconscious connotation to certain genders or ethnicities, and we don't always see it again because we're biased and it's how it's been. But you ask the tool to see if it can pull anything out, and you'd be surprised at the aha moments that come out.
So it's a bit of a sort of a testing ground, sort of a trial and error type of thing, which is I think is a huge part of any adoption of anything new. Being open minded and trying it and testing it and instead of experiencing it versus saying, no, I don't want to try it, because I'm scared. So I think that's really important. Is there one last parting point or comment that you can make, for our viewers in terms of everything that we've talked about? Is there one thing that you want people to sort of leave with? A
Yeah.
single point?
So, I mean, used the word time often. And I think, look, we all know time is very valuable. I think we all went through the pandemic. We know what that was like. We know what it was like to not be with our loved ones. And so for me, time is really valuable. I
Yeah.
love what I do, but I also want to make sure that I'm spending that time with my family and friends when I can and not always thinking about work. So think of ChatGPT or any AI tool as really your personal assistant who's sitting next to you, who you can bounce ideas off of, especially when you're working from home alone, who you can bounce ideas off of, and who can help you be more efficient in terms of your tasks so that you can then do what most of us need to do, which is talk to candidates, talk to hiring managers, etc. And then know that you've been really productive all day and can enjoy your family and friends.
Yeah.
That's use it as your assistant to save you time and so you can do other things that you love and enjoy.
And it's not just about Chat GPT.
No.
There's a gazillion of other tools, obviously, that are out there. I mean, this one just seems to be generating a lot of interest, obviously, because of its capabilities. And I just read yesterday that um, if you use Bing as a
Mm.
search engine, it now will crawl the internet for current data. So don't forget, Chat GPT is based on data that was from 2021 and before, which doesn't make a
Yeah.
huge difference, for a lot of our use cases. But now with Bing, it'll crawl everything. Google has one called Google Bard. You
Hmm.
can't use it here in Canada, unfortunately. You might have something to do with the censorship that's going on. But anyway, I'm not getting into politics here. Um, but yeah, so that's really really cool. But Shweta, I just wanted to thank you, obviously, for being a guest on my podcast. I'm honored that you said yes, and I'm going to share with everyone your links, how to contact you, and social media, and email, and so on. So once again, for all of our viewers, we have a YouTube channel. Make sure you like our post, subscribe, so you know exactly when new podcast episodes are being dropped. And we talk about all things HR tech, and also recruiting and talent. And so I just want to thank you for joining me.